Shooter ready? Stand by. Go! Shooter ready? Stand by. Go! Shooter ready? Stand by. Go!
If you ever lost a T-doll in Girls Front Line and cried about it, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Guys, welcome to another episode of Slide Bite, and today we have something that I've been wanting to take a look at for a while now, and I finally got the chance to review it. We're going to take a look at the KWA Kriss Vector gas blowback submachine gun. This is like one of the best guns that KWA has come out with before they kind of went to shit. But yeah, this is gotta be one of the cooler airsoft guns on the market and kind of like a pinnacle of what you can do with like gas blowback type of replicas. Trust me, the stuff inside this thing is pretty cool. But before we get into the video, like always, I'd like to give a huge thank you to Airsoft Extreme. As always, they've been really nice in letting me film at their place, do reviews, do all those kind of cheesy, you know, Grand Thumb parody, shooting courses and all that. I mean, heck, this part of my channel is mostly just a parody of Grand Thumb. So, Grand Thumb, if you're seeing this, love you. Another huge thank you would be to the Heavy Recoil Club. As always, they are giving me tons and tons of information on certain guns to help make a better informed decision for if you ever want to find these guns in the future. Before I begin the review, I'd like to say that this is a discontinued SMG. That means that you will have a really hard time finding these on the market. These are kind of like unicorns. Part support before I get into the video is kind of rare, so just keep that in mind. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and take this to the table, quickly take this apart, see what makes this thing tick, and the cool features that they actually put into this that make it a pretty awesome submachine gun to kind of rock on a field or keep on a shelf. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. Alright, so we have our KWA Vector out on the table here. And the first thing you notice is that this is actually a pretty large gun. It seems compact on most screens, but in reality this thing is, it's kind of a chunker. Just want to give a quick disclaimer, the iron sights on this are not what the gun comes with. I believe it comes with its own proprietary iron sights or Magpul sights, but that's besides the point. So let's quickly go over the quick controls of the gun. First thing you'll notice is it's sort of ambidextrous. What I mean by that is the fire select and the safety and the fire select are ambidextrous, so you'll find them on both sides of the gun. But everything else is going to be on the left side of the gun. So this is more or less set up for right-handed shooting. Sorry. So in terms of other controls, aside from your trigger, we have the magazine release right here. We also have our bolt release and the charging handle, and that's pretty much it in terms of controls. One thing I will note is that the charging handle, when you pull out, it actually gives a bit of leverage. I'll go into that later on. And you can just pull all the way back. It is a closed bolt system, so it does give you better accuracy. This also applies in airsoft, not just firearms. So it's a pretty decently accurate system. Like I said, we'll go over that in performance. Alright, so enough yabbering about the outside of the gun. The really cool stuff is actually on the inside of this gun, and disassembling this is actually pretty easy. So you'll notice that there are a couple of these large pins here. That's pretty easy to take apart. So what I'll do is I'm just going to quickly take the mag out. This is a typical type of KWA mag / Vector mag, I guess. I heard that these can take KWA Glock mags if KWA makes Glock. Not that I know. It does have your typical hold open here, or sorry, follower hold. So it keeps your follower down there so you can dry fire the gun or load BBs. You can only feed BBs from the top of the mag, which is kind of a bummer, but it's better than nothing. Right, so let's go ahead and field strip the gun. So this is very, very simple. You just simply push on these pins, bring them all up, just pull on these. These are non-captive, so you be sure not to lose these. And you just simply separate the upper and lower, like so. This is your fire control group, or your lower, if you're thinking of an AR, or in this case our upper. But this is the main part of the gun that you hold on to. And then right here is our fire control group. We have all the exciting shooty bits that actually work in the gun. So the real KWA Vector has a sort of weird recoil system where part of the bolt actually goes down. Well, guess what? This gun actually imitates that as well. So when I pull on the charging handle and just move it back, you can see that the bolt actually slightly goes down. So let's go ahead and pull down on that. You see that it's actually going down. There's your recoil spring. So if you want to continue field stripping this gun, it's actually really simple. You just push up on this pin right here. Put that off to the side. You can actually use it with any of these pins, and you just pull on that like so, and this is your recoil system. So you hold on to that, and when this thing is firing on full auto or at full power, it's gonna be banging on that. And this is your bolt face. So this is where the gas comes from. It's kind of greasy right now because it's been freshly cleaned. And this is your barrel and your other parts of the gun that I guess aren't as important. The hop-up is somewhere in here. I actually don't know where it is. It's, I guess, somewhere in here. Again, it takes the KWA proprietary hop-up tool, which is kind of a bother. I'd rather just fix it with my Allen keys, but oh well. Right, so this is our field stripped KWA Vector. This is a very simple gun to take apart and clean. I was actually very surprised after hearing what type of recoil system it has in it. I expected to take like 3 hours to take this thing apart. So yeah, so if you're ever going to use this for a milsim gun, this is a really good option in my opinion, because just a simple thing to take apart despite the complex, I guess, design in nature. I guess it's elegance in its chaos. But let's go ahead and put this thing back together, and I guess I'll put some final thoughts on this. So, like I have said earlier, before we took this thing apart, it is a discontinued gun. So just bear in mind when you buy one of these, part support is kind of limited. So there are third-party support or parts makers that will make aftermarket parts for these guns, but they're kind of expensive. One thing to note when you are putting back your gun after a field strip, make sure when you never pull the trigger on this, or you're going to have a hard-ass time trying to put this gun back together. Just a note from the owner of the gun. This is not my gun. This is my cameraman's, who I am in debt. Uh-oh. There we go. Who I am eternally indebted to. Man, that would have looked bad. There we go. And that's pretty much it. This is... There we go. This is your KWA Vector. A very simple gun to take apart. I'm actually slightly surprised at it. before we head over to performance and handling, I just want to give a quick note that the gun is like mostly polymer. Despite being mostly polymer with some metal internals, this is a relatively heavy gun. I think it comes in at around 6 pounds or something like that. It's definitely lighter than my 416, but it's still kind of a chunker. So just bear that in mind. If you ever want to get one of these, it's going to be arm day every day. So that's pretty much it. Let's go ahead and head over to performance and handling. Alright, so now that we're back from the table, let's go ahead and talk about how does this thing handle. Then we'll go into how this thing performs. So starting off, just generally holding it in my hands and shouldering it, it's actually really comfortable. Now, that said, the buttstock leaves a lot to be desired. For me, I just don't like this. I don't like how its cheek rest kind of rises and then slants down. For me, I notice that my cheek tends to rest on this divot here. So when I move my head up, it's kind of uncomfortable. That's for me at least. I can see how this would be a very comfortable cheek rest or buttstock for anyone else. I do like that it folds in. So if you're going to be, I guess, running this as a milsim vehicle gun, it's definitely good for, you know, stowing away for long distances, vehicles, that sort of thing. It's definitely nice. In terms of general controls, so this is kind of where it sort of falters. If you notice in the video, I'm kind of reaching for the fire select here, and you will notice in the couple clips I'm showing here, I kind of forget that the gun isn't safe sometimes, which is kind of embarrassing. It's something that I'm not used to, but I'm pretty sure if I train on this quite often, I'll get used to that. Another thing is the fire select. Typically you would have the fire select very close to your thumb and usually mixed in with your safety. It's kind of strange how you put the fire select all the way up front. That seems like something that, for at least us airsofters, when you want to go from full auto to semi-auto, you'd want to have that on the fly. But I guess for everyone else, you just kind of set it to one mode and rock with that for most of the game. What I did notice when shooting this gun is that while it does have a burst fire mode, and while the burst fire mode is kind of nice, I noticed that I rarely use it. So this might be just from my type of gameplay, but I just noticed that when I'm using this, I tend to rarely use the burst fire mode. That said, because these guns are sort of old, there are trigger groups, depending on how much the owner uses it, wear down quite a bit. I noticed that with the burst fire mode, this actually set to a pseudo binary. So what happens is then I pull the trigger, and if I'm still holding the trigger down, if I let go, it'll actually shoot out a third round, which is kind of cool. Like, I guess it's not a bug, it's a feature, in my book. So overall, in terms of like other types of handling, I do like the charging handle. How when you pull, it actually gives you a bit of leverage to pull that bolt open. Bolt group or bolt release is also in a pretty ideal location. If you're gripping it from here, I could just slap it with the palm of my hand, with that thick part of my hand, or I can just move back slightly, hit it with my thumb. Pretty nice location. The one thing I do not like about the Vector's ergonomics would have to be where that magazine release is. It's in a very uncomfortable position when you're trying to do a quick reload on this, because it's basically trying to tell you to drop the magazine. Now, if this was an AEG, sure, I wouldn't have any qualms about it. For a gas blowback, I have to sort of put my hand halfway on the mag release, or on the mag well and the mag, and then press the button to make sure I don't drop this. Like I said, gas mags are sort of fragile, so if I drop this, this is going to explode and kill like three of my buddies. So I don't want that to happen. In terms of just overall handling, it's okay.
Ready? Stand by.
It's going to take some time to get used to, but I can definitely see a lot of people enjoying the ergonomics on this. So there's that. So aside from handling, let's go ahead and go into performance. So performance, I found that the fire rate on this thing is actually pretty fast. So I think this has to do with a pretty light bolt, despite it being a two-part bolt as we went over in the table. It's definitely fast. It's not as insanely fast as a Mach 11, but it's not as slow as like a 416. It's in that sweet spot where you don't pull the trigger and dump your entire magazine in less than a microsecond type thing. You can definitely pace your shots, especially on full auto, even burst fire mode as well. It's definitely in that right balance where you can definitely check your shots in that sort of way. In terms of efficiency, I noticed that given that the gun's mags are kind of the same age as it, efficiency is all over the place. So I can get a full mag out of it, but then I have to refill on gas. Minor gripe. Honestly, it's not that bad. This is KWA after all, so we're not asking for like excellent. This is perfectly good enough for just a day out in the field. So aside from that, accuracy-wise, you have a pistol-length barrel in this, so don't expect like marksman style of accuracy. Like I said, the cone of angle on this thing is about torso sized at about 100 feet, give or take. You'd have to lead your shots, especially with this. It shoots at around 350 with .20 O's on a normal day. So its performance is completely average, especially compared to the newer MP7 that KWA makes. Except this one is actually slightly better in most regards, despite the huge size. It's definitely a well-behaved gun. It definitely doesn't recoil as hard, but it doesn't need to because of that unique recoil system that's in here. It's meant to dampen that recoil, not enhance it like what most airsoft guns are. And I find that's part of the charm. Unlike the MP7 where you wanted to have a lot of recoil, you expect this to not have that much recoil at all. Actually, when I full auto this thing, the sight picture stayed perfectly still. And I think it has to do in part with the recoil system in here. So aside from that, there are some issues with the gun. For one, it's that really dumb decision by KWA to make the hop-up tool or have its own proprietary tool. It makes no sense whatsoever. KWA should really get rid of that and just put it with a like Allen key type of hop-up like everyone else has. It makes no sense, and if you lose that tool, you're pretty much screwed. So aside from that, that's pretty much it on the gun. Like I keep saying, bear in mind these guns are kind of old and they're discontinued, so parts availability for them is going to be sort of difficult. You can definitely try to reach out to KWA, but it's uncertain if they actually still stock the parts for these type of guns. So just bear that in mind when you buy one of these. You be sure to chat with whoever owns it on the condition of the gun, any like serious internal issues, and just, I guess, be gentle with these guns, given that there isn't the support there is today, and it's a shame. I have to say, this has got to be one of KWA's best gas blowback guns, and it's a shame to see the quality of their gas guns kind of degrade in the way that I've seen it. Trust me, when I go over their Mach 11 in the future, you're going to see what I mean. And that's pretty much it. That's all I have to say about this gun. My final thoughts is, I'd have to say, if you're a die-hard gas blowback person, yes, definitely get this. If you want to spurg a whole bunch of money into an airsoft gun, this is a good alternative to what most people would say like a Viper Tech or a VFC like SR25 type thing. This is definitely a good way to burn your money and actually have a decent gun in the process. So that's pretty much it. If you guys like the video, all I ask is you subscribe, that sort of thing. 100 subscriber milestone. I'm already halfway there at the time of this video, so that's kind of amazing. So I thank you for sticking around. Hope to see you guys in the next video.